Good morning, everyone, and happy Groundhog Day. Now, to tell you the truth, I don't have a reading that I wanted to share with you today, uh, but I do want to briefly talk about Groundhog Day. First of all, many of you, if you're old enough, remember a movie starring Bill Murray and written by uh, brilliant Buddhisty people. Harold Ramis, is that uh, called Groundhog Day. Now it's a funny, goofy movie, and but it really treats on some very serious and intriguing. It's a study in consciousness. It might even be considered a study in reincarnation, but it certainly is a study in the fragility of time. Now, Groundhog Day in the United States, for those of you out of the country, it's a holiday that started in Pennsylvania, uh, where they tried to predict the weather, uh, especially at this time of year when it was important for farmers and sailors and other people. It was important for them to know if winter was going to continue uh, in its severity for a few more weeks, for 6 more weeks, or if we were about ready to have an early spring. And they figured, well, if it was cloudy, I hope I'm getting this right. If it was cloudy and you couldn't see the sun at sunrise on February 2nd, then it would be 6 more weeks of, or we'd have an early spring. I think is the way it is. But if it was sunny, we would have 6 more weeks of wintry weather. Forgive me if I've got that reversed. So in order to illustrate that, they said, well, if our groundhogs, that's been more or less hibernating all winter, if the groundhog sort of wakes up on February 2nd and at dawn and peeks out of his hole and it's sunny and he sees his shadow, he knows it's going to be 6 more weeks of winter and he goes back into his hole. So if the groundhog sees his shadow, it's 6 more weeks of winter. And so they out of boredom, I guess, they created a festival called Groundhog Day. And they pull a local groundhog out of his hole, actually in the middle of the night. So it's crazy. And they make a big thing out of it. They dress in top hats and they play polka music, and it's fun. And the movie was based around a comedy, a fantasy comedy, based around the town in Pennsylvania where they were holding this, and Bill Murray, who is a television reporter, wakes up in the morning and is faced with this boring story that he has to cover in this chilly February morning in Punxsutawney or whatever it is, name of the town. And he ends up uh, going through a series of events, just mundane events. He meets people. He steps in the puddle. He meets an old friend. He talks with people. He does his interview and everything. Then you follow him along, and he ends up uh, falling asleep in the hotel room. And the very next day, he wakes up just exactly like he did the day before. And that's why I posted the "I Got You, Babe" that was on the clock radio. And he wakes up just like he did before, and he goes on with his day, and he hardly notices that his day is anything too unusual. But it eventually dawns on him that he did the exact same thing. This waitress in the restaurant drops a tray of food at the same time and everything else. And then he realizes he's stuck in the same day. It's Groundhog Day. And it's very interesting, very funny. There's full of gags and things like that. But it gets to be a very serious idea. And he goes to sleep, he wakes up the next day, same thing. And so he's forced to relive this rut of behavior and experiences. And as long as he's sort of fighting it and it becomes kind of a nightmarish thing. And eventually he ends up purposely killing himself. And then he still wakes up the next day. And then he kills himself in colorful, exciting ways. And he still wakes up the next day. And finally, he surrenders to the fact that he's stuck in this one day, and he's just got this one day to make the most of. And so in one scene, you see him going to a piano teacher to learn to play the piano. And he learns to play the piano, or she gives him a lesson, and the next day he goes back to the piano player or piano teacher, but he has the accumulated memory of what he learned the previous day. So he's better, and the lesson is easier. And he goes back the very next day, and he's even better, and the lesson is even easier. And other things in his one day that he's got, he starts to refine himself. He starts to learn the little lessons that he ignored in the day before. He actually, in a restaurant, he gets to save somebody's life who he knows is going to choke on their food. And he rescues them, and he becomes kind of a hero. And he enjoys the new, more refined, the new, more awake person that he's becoming. And the whole thing becomes a very serious examination of what the idea of reincarnation may actually be about. And evolution, Constance. Thank you, dear. And what evolution is about. And what the unfolding of one's consciousness. And the idea that we've always said, well, I'm put here on earth to do something that only I can do, otherwise I wouldn't be here. Well, bingo. We are here to do something that only we can do, just like Bill Murray eventually realizes. He really eventually realizes that not only his own potential, but what it actually means to be himself. And so this idea of reincarnation, where we think of it as sequential events, as if we die in this body and our ghost, like a vapor of smoke, goes into a baby and comes out, and we've got, and somebody's keeping some kind of cosmic ledger of our assets and our liabilities, and arranges sort of like a karmic board. No, it's more like Groundhog Day. And we've only got the one day to work with. Ultimately, we've only got now to work with. And just like Bill Murray, by changing our now, we've changed the conditions. If we look at it sequentially, we've changed the conditions of our past, and we've changed the conditions of our future. And once we start to erase the time equation out of our existence, because time is not as simple and as linear as we think it is. Once we erase time from the equation, we're stuck with making the best of now. And the more we come to the realization of that, the faster we'll refine ourselves, the faster we'll come to the awakening of who we are, what we're really here to do, and how to exhaust our individual potentiality to the fullest. As Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford's final words were, the purpose of my existence is to exhaust my individual potentiality. And if we have to wake up on the same day over and over and over again, we have an eternity to do that. Or we can take advantage of it and accumulate. This is why people say, well, he was born with that talent. Right. He was born with that. Oh, he has a gift. Right. You gave yourself that gift. For good or ill, you've given yourself that gift. So anyway, that's my little ramble for Groundhog Day. If ever you've learned a musical instrument, you know that practice makes perfect. Well, when it comes to reincarnation, practice makes perfect. We'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. Continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.